It's really important that we collaborate because no mat is an island, and we're all trying to carve through the same education landscape, which has its challenges, as it always does. And that school, it gives me goosebumps thinking about it, because it went from a school where we had significant numbers of students opting out of lessons, and now I'm really proud to take people around that school. I think that's why we believe in a principles-based approach. The principles will never change.
Hi, today we're going to be speaking to Lynsey Holzer, who is the CEO at Active Learning Trust. We're going to be speaking a little bit about her role and her experiences in educational leadership. So, Lindsay, you're the CEO at the Active Learning Trust. Could you tell us a little bit about your role and how your educational leadership approach is helping MATs navigate current challenges?
Sure. So I've been CEO at this trust for over 2 years now. I think the MAT sector is still a really young sector. So I think there's a few things. It's really important that we collaborate, because no mat is an island, and we're all trying to carve through the same education landscape, which has its challenges, as it always does. So I think that at Active Learning Trust, we really believe in sector-wide help. So one of our absolute strategic aims is that we involve ourselves in the sector, we help the sector, we further thinking in the sector, and we take that very seriously. And I suppose at this time, in education, with such a young sector, it's ever more important that as leaders in the sector, and leaders in the widest sense, that we really hold our vision strong. So we're confident in our vision, but still listening, but also have a real values-based approach, because I think it is a shifting landscape at the moment. So you have to hold that confidence whilst also listening across to people within your organisation and across the sector. So I think any time you can collaborate with others, therefore, is really important.
Okay, that's great. So you've spoken a little bit about collaboration. So at MATPN Mid, we'll also be touching on trust-wide behaviour standards.
Yes.
How can MATs ensure consistent behaviour standards while still adapting to individual school contexts?
I do think this is a conversation that MATs have all the time with themselves and each other, because it touches on the idea of when we allow absolute independence in schools and when we take control. So when we look at things like behaviour approaches in MATs, the MATs are all doing it in different ways. We've established a principles-based approach. So for lots of the work that we do across the MAT, we're looking at how do we hold principles that are the same and hold really high standards for behaviour, for academic standards, anything else, whilst making sure that we ensure every school is sustainably meeting those standards and beyond. So we take a really collaborative approach to that by looking at developing those principles together, which is what we've done. We have behaviour principles across the whole trust, and everybody adheres to those, and they are beyond the Ofsted framework, so they hold a higher standard than Ofsted would. And then we work with colleagues across the trust. So leaders come out of their schools, work with each other. We work with colleagues across the trust to ensure that those behaviour standards are held high. Now, they might look different in every school. We really strongly feel that the uniqueness of a school in its context, in its environment, with the teachers and leaders it had at the time, has to have a bearing on this. So whilst the schools may have different ways of implementing those, they hold the same very high standards. And we think that that's the right approach for behaviour.
So with you're speaking about your experiences, you've got 2 decades of experience, which is great, especially in educational leadership. So how have you seen approaches to behaviour management evolve throughout your time?
Like everything else in education, they come in waves. So I see it go around in circles, as many people do, and things come in and out of fashion as well. And I think that's because people are always reaching to solve this issue, and because behaviour and SEND often overlap. And I think people genuinely in the sector want to find solutions, so they'll try things. Somebody will write something, and people will try against that as well. So I've seen it change change over time. And I think that's why we believe in a principles-based approach. The principles will never change. Sometimes the implementation does, and we hear new research and we say, actually, what's the best way to achieve that part? But we hold those same standards high. But it continues to change, and I think it's a big conversation the sector's having at the moment. And I think the way our behaviour strategies absolutely match what's happening in society. So plenty of things will come and go, and society is changing. Post-COVID, it's changing. Post-COVID, it's changed, and will continue to change. And the sector continues to respond. But and there are some ways in terms of behaviour management that we wouldn't hold with, that we don't agree with, because they go against our basic principles and philosophy. And so we do steer what schools do within our trust. And we hope by celebrating the impact we do have with those strategies in events like MATPN, we can help to impact on other people across the sector as well.
Okay, that's great. So you spoke a little bit there about principles. So in your session, you're going to be talking about embedding consistent behaviour principles. So could you actually share a tangible example of like how this has made a difference to pupils and staff at one of your schools?
Sure. So I'll give an example of one of our secondary schools that was in really challenging circumstances and had been for some time. So we worked with that school and we used those principles to steer the new behaviour management system and the new behaviour curriculum, because behaviour comes in two parts. So we use those principles, and in that case, as a whole leadership team with the school leadership team, we developed a really clear behaviour management system. And so within only 3 or 4 months, we saw significant change at that school. And as it stands, that school has an incredible behaviour system, which is having real impact, keeping students in school, but also making sure that students are in front of great teachers and learning. So we've seen massive impact there. And really, the behaviour was the first of those strategies to be put in place at that school, because everything else needed that to succeed before it could succeed. And that school, it gives me goosebumps thinking about it, because it went from a school where we had significant numbers of students opting out of lessons, opting to be wandering the corridors, opting to exhibit rude behaviour, for example. And now I'm really proud to take people around that school. So significant change. And that was, hard work on the leader's behalf, absolutely, every day, but also really sound principles work and structures and systems on top of those principles that really work.
Okay, that's great. So you've said before that you believe in the power of collective and professional generosity. How does this philosophy inform your approach to implementing trust-wide standards?
We have 5 strategic aims across our trust, and one of them is our civic responsibility. And when we talk about that, we are talking about the community, but also the wider education community. And because that's hard baked into our strategic aims, it gives everybody not just the license, but the absolute imperative to be professionally generous. And we really believe in that. So at all times, we're reaching out across the sector in thought pieces or getting involved in national events to try and further that work. And we don't have all the answers by any means, but that's a two-way process. The more people we talk to, the more people we see, and schools we visit and trusts we visit, the more information we get as well. So again, this is such a young sector that we have to absolutely reach out to each other. If you stay in your island, in your trust, you're not going to get very far, and that's what we believe. And I think on top of those strategic aims, we have very clear trust values that we work with. And some of those, one of those values is that we are a family, not a house share, and that means to us as adults that actually we get involved and we make sure that we include everybody in that. So I think it's both things. It's really clear vision in terms of our strategic aims and values on top of that, which means this is how we behave. So across the trust, we believe in that, and it happens at every level.
Okay, so you've spoken a little bit about previous examples. So if we look ahead to the future, what excites you most about the future of educational leadership?
I honestly think the world is at our feet in terms of the maths sector. I really believe in good quality maths. So I think when we get this right, and when we, if I fast forward kind of 5 years, 10 years, and think of the amount of growth we've done as a sector in the last 5 years, as long as we keep looking to each other and as long as we work together, then I do think that we can solve quite a lot of the issues in education that have been eluding us for quite some time. Take SEND, for example, and inclusion. There is an absolute need to work together on that. And if we get that part right and set all egos aside and are professionally generous, then we stand a good chance of solving some of those profound issues that affect us as a sector, but more importantly, affect those young people as they come out of education into society. So I love education, and I'm at all times excited by the promise of that.
Lindsay, thank you so much for coming in. It was great to chat to you today. If you want to talk to Lindsay and see her at MATPN Midlands on the 24th to 25th of June, go to matpm-uk.com and register.